in it or sensed something else that made the hairs on your back stand up? Well, one local woman says you experienced what might actually be a message from beyond.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Christine Duminiak says she can't see dead people, like the kid from the movie The Sixth Sense. You remember that? But she told NBC 10's Tim Furlong that she knows they're there.
You might feel a brush across your cheek, she says. You might smell their perfume. You might start finding coins in odd spots. They might even talk.
You may hear someone call your name in the room, like Tim, and you turn around, but there's nobody there.
Of course, any one incident might seem like a coincidence. Christine says you'll know it's them when you start seeing a pattern.
I always say to look for the unusual, because after all, they are spirits. They don't have bodies, so they have to do things the best way they can to get our attention and to help us.
And here to explain her connection with the beyond and how you can hear your loved ones too, please welcome Christine Duminiak.
Hi, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, how do you know the signs? How do you know them?
Well, because I've had so many myself. How this all started for me was back in 1998. In-laws visited me, and they stayed for about an hour, but the really unusual thing was they had been dead for a number of years. Well, this will get your attention. And I needed to find out what this was, so I went on a quest. I found out this was called an after-death communication, that it's estimated that at least 50 million Americans have had at least one type, that even the Vatican believes that the dead can communicate with the living. And because of this experience, I found myself involved in spiritual bereavement support, although I'm not a psychic or a medium. And I also became a certified grief recovery specialist. And I was finding that there were so many people that were desperate to get a sign from their loved ones. They just needed that sign to know their loved one was okay. And I really wanted to do something to help these people, because by then my own dad had passed and he was giving me so many different signs to let me know that he was still around. So I established an internet prayer group where we would actually pray for people to get a sign from their loved ones. And as time went by, it became clear that prayer really does work.
So, but you had the visitation without praying. Oh, it was just kind of a surprise for you.
Right.
And did they appear to you as well as be able to communicate with you?
I couldn't hear them. I could only see them. They looked like filmy holograms. They both had hats on. My father-in-law had a tie on, and my mother-in-law had pearls and red lipstick. And I could see them, and I could see through them, but I could not hear them.
Now, can you communicate with them if they don't want to be communicated with? Do you know what I'm saying? If you just, this is someone you just want to call up, can you do that?
Well, what I found is that we never really have to say goodbye, because they do still see and hear us, and they try and let us know that. So anytime you talk to them, they get that instantly. So you can just have an ongoing spiritual connection to your loved one.
Wow. Now, do we have anyone in the audience who might have a question for Christine? Anybody?
There are a few hands. Just raise your hand if you have a question. Lori, why don't you go in the audience and take some of the questions. Christine, I'm sure you get lots of different questions about this. How many years has this been going on for you?
For 8 years.
Wow.
And what's your name?
Helene.
Okay, Helene, what's your question for Christine?
I saw the full moon in a little window in my house right after my sister passed and my very good friend passed away. And I had asked my friend to send me a sign that she was with my sister, and I was wondering if that was the sign.
Did you feel in your heart that this was a sign?
Yes.
And you know, what I've noticed is when our loved ones give us signs, they also simultaneously will give you that thought that that is from them, because they can give us thoughts. So if you really felt in your heart that this was your sign, then go with it and just say thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, we're going to move right back here. How you doing?
Hi.
Okay, Lynn, what's your question?
My question is, all the time when I look at a clock, it always says like 11:11. And I don't know why. Is there a reason why?
I hear that 1111 is an angelic number, and that your angels are saying, hi, we're with you, when you see 1111.
They must be with me a lot, then. I see it a lot.
Wow, that's great.
Well, maybe you got it stuck on set the time.
Or that too.
If it's 24 hours a day.
It changes, Bill.
It does. Okay, it changes. All right. Christine Duminiak, what's the strangest or most interesting experience you've had in the last 8 years?
For me personally, well, let's see. My dad was my favorite golf buddy. And before he passed, I said, Dad, if you give me a sign, let it be something to do with golf. So the first time I went out to play golf after he passed, I noticed that this hawk, and I was talking to him mentally, just one-way conversation, and a hawk came out overhead. and circled around me, flapped his wings like he was saying hello, and flew off. And for the first year, every time I went out to golf, a hawk would come and do that. And it got to the point where we were up the mountains and I was with my husband and son. I predicted that a hawk would come out. A minute later, a hawk came out, did the same thing, circled overhead, waved, flapped his wings like hi, and flew off. So that is pretty unusual.
Christine Duminiak, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. We'll be right back with more of Tech.